You're still tuned to Good Morning Anambra Show. Now, the 2026 electoral law and off-season polls in Nigeria. Electoral laws are critical in shaping democratic governance, determining how elections are conducted and how credible they are. In Nigeria, the responsibility of conducting elections lies with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and which oversees elections across country, including the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. With the introduction of the 2026 electoral law, many Nigerians are asking whether the reforms will strengthen transparency, credibility, and public confidence in the electoral processes. Joining us this morning to talk about this all-important issue is none other than a public affairs analyst who is also a legal practitioner, Barrister Chris Arukwe. It's good to have you in the studio, Barrister.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
You're welcome to the show.
Yeah.
All right, now let's begin by asking some important questions or an overview of the. Okay, to start with, could you explain what the 2026 electoral law entails and why it is important to Nigeria's democratic development?
Yeah, thank you very much. The question would rather be, is the amendment sufficient for use and purpose? Did the amendment go well? Did it go deep into the matter? Did it really solve the question of the absence of full credibility? Because a lot of people kind of think that the electoral law, the existing one, 2024-23, wasn't sufficient. And because of it, failures were seen in the 2023 general election. And then there was an outcry, bold outcry all over the place, that these laws, electoral acts, should be amended in such a manner that it will help to give credibility to the elections as intended. The question is now, how far did the amendments go? Did it really assuage the feelings of the general public? Did it go well and all that? You can see the public outcry, the demonstrations and everything, the press out and all that. It didn't go well, it didn't go deep enough. And most Nigerians feel that the act, the intended amendment or the amendment which had been signed into law didn't do well enough. The grand point there is making the election to be digital enough, making the election to be real-time transmission of the results. The end point of the purpose of election is to see that the results reflect the wishes of the masses. Those who participated in the elections, are their wishes being translated to the end point. And the end point is the voter aspiration end well. The figures reflect our communal feelings. Did we elect the person we have chosen in our minds and in our conduct? Most time you now see that there's a variance, and that's why people go to court. And why do they go to court? They go to court because the final result do not equate to what people think. And therefore,
they're still giving reasons why they did what they did. You know that they will use what is it electronic as well as resort to manual in case of any emergency.
Yeah, it's all trumped up. It's just an excuse for diligence. It's an excuse for fraud. Because if you make a law, the law should be explicit. The law is like surgery. You end it well. If you don't end it well, if you leave any loophole, that small loophole you think can go to a large extent to spoil the broad. So if you now say, if it's a possibility, you leave it to the discretion of the people who are conducting these elections. The purpose of legal drafting should not end with if. The possibility should make it must shall. You know, the spirit should be specific, should be specified in such a way that there are no other choices that are left at the discretion of an institution that has not been doing well in the past. So it should have been the results shall be transmitted real-time, electronically. When collation takes place, it should immediately be transmitted to the portals, the final portal, so that anybody who is sitting anywhere can be evaluating the results as they're coming in. Just like when we watch Americans doing their elections. You're sitting in Nigeria and you're seeing what is happening in one state or the other, the state you're interested in. But
you're seated in your the comfort of your
in Black World Africa, Black World Africa, you're
watch
watching
it ticking.
Yes, but here we are here in Nigeria. 2 days after, 4 days after, the figures are still being cooked, and we're the poorest in election or electoral practices in the whole of Africa. Kenya does their election and it ends in 1 day. India does their election the fastest, one of the largest countries in the world, or second largest country in the world. They do their election and it ends in 12 hours. Now, because we have the capacity. It's just that we don't have the will and the public spirit.
Now, Barrister Arukwe, INEC said what they owe Nigerians is actually to give you the result of an election. Now, what Nigerians are saying is that when they came up and said that electronic transmission, you understand, that even led to the amendment of the Electoral Act, wasn't going to be feasible. The question is, whose job is it to make everything that Nigerians want feasible? Is it the presidency, is it the executive, or the INEC that actually owes Nigerians this whole thing? And INEC, I mean the telecom companies that have come up to say that electronic transmission of results can be delivered real time. Is this an avenue for INEC to ask for more money in order to grant Nigerians their wishes, or is it just the executive wanting INEC to actually continue with, in most people's mind, their game plan for 2027?
I think one, it is the job of the executive arm to provide tele-density across the country. It's their primary responsibility, liaising with the telecos. And there's no part of Nigeria which does not have telecommunication density.
Coverage.
One way or the other. There's no part of Nigeria. Because if you see the phone ownership spread in Nigeria, nearly up to 80% phone ownership, those who are assessed, Nigerians who are assessed through telephonic, has the largest extent up to 80% coverage. So if these people in remote places of the world, of the country, are owning handsets, and they are connecting, transmitting, sending voice and data messages, why would we not, on a good day in Nigeria, where everybody is focused on this election, be able and in a capacity to transmit real-time results all over the country with absolute confidence and validity? So I think it's just a cover-up. We are very shy about saying the truth, the bold truth. And what is the bold truth? The truth is that they have delivered. They want a way out. And this is what was threaded in the tribunals in the 2023 election, where they even specified in the bylaws of the INEC people how the elections, the guidelines to the elections, and then they say it's discretionary. While INEC have said prior to the election that the elections will be transmitted electronically. And the tribunal held that INEC has powers to either do this or do that. But this thing is the same thing that's going to play out. If you give them the option that this result can be transmitted digitally or electronically, and then on the other hand, manually, they will rely on the manual transmission because that's where the human error will occur. That's the time the figures will change from 1,000 1,200 to 40,200. So these are the kind of things we're all going to, you now begin to see mutilations and all that, like you recorded in River State and Municipal Council election.
let me quickly cut you short there. I don't know, the implication of a statement made by Amopito today on the national dailies is quite shocking for you know, a leader of that capacity to tell us that 2027 polls won't be 100% perfect. And of course, citing that there are network glitches in the just concluded FCT election last 2 Saturdays. So what do you think about this? How can a person of that level or that character talk about telling us what will happen even before the time?
Yes. It's a railroad. You know, the man is pushing us to the wall, pushing the nation to the world. He's just singing the tones of his masters. It's an irresponsible statement. You, before your job, you promised heaven and earth that the election would be a near perfect situation. What is the glitches? If the glitches happened in 2023, you are now by 2027 foretold.
Exactly what I'm about to say, because this is not the first time Nigeria will be conducting election.
What manner of election, what manner of practice, glitches you can rectify from 2023 to 2027 coming? And people have said there are companies in this country, consulting firms, digital network people who can really conduct these elections manually on behalf of INEC and give them the result to announce. The polls, people are conducting polls in Nigeria already. There are people who can, prior to 2023, there was a bank that said that they have the facility to conduct these elections through electronic voting, through your phones, because most people have all the data. If you vote through the platform that will be created, it's marked A or B or whatever, and the results will be collected at the portals. There are facilities for all that. It's just that we are deceptive. They want an end result that exams they have set. They have set the exams. The man is just not alarming us. He's trying to tell us that this is something that will come, preparing our mind to the evil that will come in 2027. I do not feel flabbergasted. I do not feel alarmed. It is already foretold. And then why are we going to the polls? People have been crying about what happened at Abuja Municipal Council election. But they say, why don't we just sit down and take all these monies that we give to INEC, use it to build a modern first-class medical facility, and allow Tinubu to appoint, allow the present administration to appoint people who would stay in his administration from 2027. I think it's a more credible choice. People will not die, people will not travel unnecessarily, and this money's 1-point-something trillion can be used to establish a national monument, a hospital of international standard, and maybe give us more money to spend, give us more money for our children and all that, for taxes and all that. And it makes a whole lot more meaning that these monies will be watered out, end up in private pockets, and we'll get an anguishing result called election results and all that.
Now, talking about this Electoral Act, election timelines, notice period for elections has been reduced from 360 days to 180 days. And now people are beginning to wonder, candidate submission deadline shortened to 90 days before election. Well, most of our politicians are already used to a certain format of election, tribunal, court declaration, and then maybe a winner emerges. Now, with this shortened time, how do you think, does it give credibility to the judiciary to actually do their work, or is INEC trying to silk it fine? Let us mop up all these issues of after election, people are going to court. Let INEC have the final say on election matters.
Well, you can't shut people down to justice. You can't say leave all the story to INEC to tell. INEC have been riddled with corruption in the past. INEC is not an institution of credibility. So leaving it at the hands of them would be shutting down justice, shutting down people to fair hearing and choice. It doesn't even come that you should allow the interpretation of the act to be at the hands of the institutions that corrupted the system to achieve an end result that they already know. That would be wrong. What the problem in Nigeria is that we have moved from situations that seem to be run better than to worse situations. When Babangida was in office, we had two solid political institutions, SDP and NRC, that were also growing into big political platforms. They were credible, there was semblance of order going on. But when UNA came, pretending under the constitution that they had freedom of choice, the courts were expanding the platforms that anybody who coagulates together can have a political party. You now have more than 70 political parties registered and all that. Some people got registered the other day, about 1 week ago, and some people are still in court trying to get the courts to give them the permission to get registered political parties. So you now see that the job of INEC is widened beyond scope. There are a lot of ambiguities. So many political parties that will score just 50 votes in states and all that, they are all coagulating and saying that they're political parties. And you have to give them semblance of all that, the same type of priority you give to the PDP or the APC and the APGA and all these kind of parties. You have to give them the semblance of all that. Their flags have to be reflected, their insignias and all that. So it compounds the problem in a country where we should have an order of two political parties. Look at how huge America is. And they're running two solid political parties. And it's working because it reduces the load, the numerical load of multi-party structure, names, data, uploading and not uploading, court cases there, court cases there. But if the framework is reduced to like 2 or 3 political parties, the personnel is smaller, the arithmetic, the algorithms are quite smaller, you can manage. Fewer people will be going to court. Fewer political parties will be going to court. It will now enable the courts to sit down and sizzle out real juristic outcomes. But now when multiplicity of parties, multiplicity of candidates all over the place, somebody will be denied primaries election here, tomorrow he's off in another party. These are things the Electoral Act would have cured, the defects in those kind of things, cross-party activities and all that. But those are big problems. They never touch those ones. They want to leave it like loopholes where they can benefit from.
All right, now talking about the new 2027 electoral laws, let's move a bit to the off-season polls or off-season elections that we have in this country. You know, how does this 2026 electoral laws regulate or guide the conduct of off-season polls?
Yeah. My general remark about the off-season polls is that you will see that in Rivers State, in Rivers State, Ogun State, Anambra State, Edo State, they had off-season elections. And these states that I have mentioned scored less than 25%. Anambra scored 24.4% in the voter turnout. What do you now say? If we have a 100% database and 25% participate, 25% is like a 1/4. It's not a pass mark in any kind of arithmetic. When we went to school, 25% is not a pass mark. It's not really a pass mark anywhere in the world. So you now see that what these off-season elections are painting, they're painting where the minority is submerging the majority and they're producing a minority rule in the governance structure where the majority of the people do not vote and then the minority takes over. What is it leading to? It's leading to authoritarian governance is leading to draconian policies, is leading to corruption, because it is your men that are in the parliament, that is in the legislature, and that even your men are also in the judiciary. It's a governance by the elite, a closed elite. So there's no guarantee that there's going to be opposition. There's not going to be diversity of views. There's not going to be your views and my views on the table. It's going to be the views of that 25% of the people chosen by money, by connections, and all that, and all that. So you now see that these off-season elections are painting a green picture where we are now supplanting the wishes of the good masses who stay away on the account of fear, account of credibility of the electoral institution. They are not longer comfortable that my vote does not count. That is the slogan. And it works well, because where are you going when you know that your vote will not count? And definitely it doesn't count, because 25% doesn't represent you and I.
All right.
Okay,
I think
let's take a short break, and then we'll continue after this time out. Don't go anywhere. The show continues after this time out.
Welcome back to the live studios of Good Morning Anambra show, where we are looking at the 2026 electoral law and off-season polls within the framework of Nigeria's Electoral Act 2026, and of course elections conducted by Independent National Electoral Commission in FCT. And Barrister Chris Arukwe in the studio has been doing justice to that topic. Now, the FCT elections that happened last 2 Saturdays, you saw what happened, and complaints by people. And of course, Amopita said they learned a lot of lessons in that election. That's an off-season election. So what's your take on what's your assessment of that election that happened in FCT?
Yes, it's a picture of the general anatomy. That thing that happened in Abuja is a choreographed fraud, just like people rehearsed to cheat people, it's just a rehearsal to fraud. Somebody termed it a choreographed fraud. Choreography, I think it's a sublimation of might, personality thing. I won. Yes, I won. And what is the cost of your winning? Pyrrhic, empty boast and all that. First, the minister, rising on his capacity as a minister with extraordinary power, plenipotentiary powers, ordered that there should be
curfew.
Falana has questioned his legal capacity to so declare, a minister to declare curfew in the federal capital of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Abuja is not a state. Abuja is the federal capital of Nigeria. So whoever holds the administrative control, the mayoral control, may not have the powers to legislate, for avoidance of doubt, legislate, to declare a curfew, no movement in all parts of the municipal, the mayority. So that is a doubt that still need to be opened up for legal questioning, whether he had the capacity to, one, declare that there should be a curfew, preventing people from moving around the capital city when this thing was holding. And then, two, the election, what percentage of our people participated in the said election? Or did the curfew and wide military and police mobilization actually signal fear in the lives of our people, that they rather stayed home, played their footballs, and all that? And did did the impact of the unpreparedness of INEC actually manifest in the results that we witnessed? We would rather say that that election represented the wishes and of the majority of the persons who are living in the capital territory. Would 24% represent a 100% mark? Would that little number, where we have some 90,000 people, registered voters, in a area center, municipal center, and about 10,000 people voting, would you call it rather an election?
And when I'm seeing these things, one begins to, or Nigerians, or questions that could be in the minds of Nigerians, whether this is what's going to play out in the 2027 general election. Seeing that even Amopita, the first election he conducted was the Anambra State election. This is the second one, and the major one, the third one, is coming 2027. And he's telling us that there are glitches. I don't know whether we're going to even find a special place for this glitches, this word, glitches, in special dictionary in Nigeria.
So he has acquired a valency, he has acquired a skill of his own, and special memory in our minds, that anybody who didn't go to school knows what glitches stand for. It stands for failure, it stands for corruption, it stands for contraption. Any deceitful thing you need to acquire, you give it to glitches. If you can't do well in your house, damn it, glitches. And everybody now knows what it means. And these things we are now seeing, you're now calling them off-season elections, or scheduled elections that are happening. Why can we, you were asking the other time whether we can really get back to a full term once and a while election, 4-year tenure kind of system. This system, this saga election came as a result of a Supreme Court decision on P2B against Ngige and all the rest of it, where it now say that P2B's tenure has not run and it will not end 9 months after, because they were almost getting to the end of their tenure when he took over. 2 years to go, or 1.5 years to go, So the Supreme Court said, no, his tenure hasn't really started to run. And he is going to run his full stream of 4 years. So that introduced the practice of off-season election, and people have capitalized on it and all that. We can by legislation, reduce that impact. We can, by law, make it such that the unexpired tenure can be run by candidates who stood for the election. Immediately there's a gap. Somebody dies, for example, somebody resigns, or somebody has cross-carpeted like what the law prescribed. You get the man who has stood second in the election to come and complete the tenure, unexpired tenure.
Not the vice, the deputy?
The deputy, what I mean, the deputy or anybody who has come second or who is available as a
No,
deputy.
you said somebody that came second in the election. So what happens to the deputy when the principal either
I'm talking of legislature.
Okay.
People, not just deputy governor and the governor. I'm talking about the people who normally go for these off-season elections.
Okay.
You get people like the ones that happened in Anambra was senatorial and a few other House of Reps elections and all that. So these are kind of things. Instead of going for a full blast election, you get people who ran for the election to come out and take the positions of the vacancy. That's what I mean. So that we can go back to have a full term, 4 years tenure system, where everybody who wants to stand for the election will come out at the same time, so that we don't spend money all the time running for election, organizing election, and using these monies for something more credible than conducting aimless elections that don't work. It never worked. And then this idea of multi-party system. Anybody can hold office and say he has opened office in Orumba, has opened in Agbaro, and then he's registered. And he registers a political party, he puts it in a pocket, waiting for candidates who have lost their primaries to come and buy him over and all that. He makes a whole lot of money. So what we're saying is that the structure, administrative shake-up that this country requires is quite deep. We have to figure out how to deregister all these political parties and get a system of evolution of 2 parties or 3-party system, where we can now have solid multi-party system that is built on democracy, that is built on selfless service for the people, not just people now running fiefdom, calling it political parties. APC, PDP, all these parties are not political parties, but they are clubs that are not bound by rules. You can see what has been happening with PDP in the past 4 years. Court cases, night fights and all that. Money moving up and down and all that. Judges are being influenced, judges are being bought, different decisions by different judges and jurisdictions. These things should stop. It is not this is not how to grow democracy. There has to be an end. Off-season election has not produced the litmus test for credibility. It has not aided anything. Rather, it has just showcased what's going to happen in 2027.
Okay, still talking about this. Before the President, Tinubu, signed the Electoral Act on February 18 into law, Godswill Akpabio, that's the Senate President, said that the yearnings of Nigerians were definitely considered with that electoral law that was put in for Nigerians concerning our next election. And now, before that passage, we heard that in the House, National Assembly, they were even suggesting if the beavers will be, kept aside, and then people just be in queue with your voter's card and vote. But that was definitely swept aside and now said beavers would definitely be needed to carry out these elections. So based on this, would you say that the National Assembly actually granted Nigerians their yearnings? Imagine an election whereby you don't even need to come with your voter's card. You just stand in the queue and then you thumbprint and the rest of it all. Are you going to say that's a plus for us, the fact that we're going to still be using beavers, but probably be using both electronic transmission and the E6, what's it called? EC8A electoral sheet?
That is manual.
Manual transmission. Yeah, compilation.
Yeah, we haven't gone anywhere because I have said in my opening remarks that the amendment, the intended amendment, should be able to correct the existing mischief. And what is the mischief? The results normally that normally come from INEC as a result of what happened in the open fields do not reflect the wishes of the people. This is what we're saying. And then the only way to assist INEC in delivering results that look like what the people voted for is electronic transmission of these results, so that the human participation in what becomes what is reduced. I don't want to say human error, because these are not error. When you intend a fraud, it's not an error. When you mutilate result, when you change 1 to 4, it's not an error. It is what is normally done.
No,
at this age, let me just drop
okay,
this point.
okay.
At this age in 21st century, nobody in the world conducts election by option A4, even where I know that it was my brother who introduced that kind of system in 1993. We should not, in his honor, keep doing it because it is honorable to do so.
But he yielded a positive...
At that time,
yeah.
the digital world was still behind in some levels. Now we have moved on to endpoint digital perfection, that you have AI that can tell you everything you need. You have the global, the Google that can tell you any result of things you never knew that existed.
Barrister,
so
did you notice that? Did you notice
endpoints.
that some people at the last election could not be captured their thumbprint with the beavers machine? Several times they tried to, but they would even apply powder, clean their palm, their thumb rather, and yet.
What does it tell you? When you buy adulterated machines, when you buy real product, in today's world you have China grade 1, China grade, up to 16 grades of the same material. If you now want, you have, like some of us who are glued to iPhone, you have iPhone Dubai, you have iPhone China, you have iPhone UK, and you have iPhone USA. So it depends on the one you want. And if you come to iPhone China, you have another about 6 to 10 grades of China iPhone. Then you have this Dubai one that sells almost a quarter of its value. So it depends on what you buy, and it depends on what you bring. The Beavers machine that was touted to be the end engineering knowledge and scientific discovery of one man in INEC, it's just a pad.
And to think that the reason we are all here talking about the electoral law and of course the off-season elections in Nigeria is at least to ensure that the yearnings of Nigerians are met in 2027. You know, no longer failures here and there, no longer glitches here and there. They've started telling us that there are challenges. Now, I don't know, as an analyst, do you in any way think the 2026 Electoral Act is aimed at improving transparency and credibility in elections? Because timetables are already out, waiting for the election to happen.
Yes, yes. I think you walked into my hands. You can see the opera, the demonstration by the civil society, opposition parties. You saw P2B there, you saw Amechi, you saw all sorts of people demonstrating. Atiku was part of the people that led demonstration to National Assembly. And you can see that the police used tear gas to run them down, to stifle their efforts. And in 3 days, it ended, and everybody has gone to their separate camps and all that. What happened at INEC, at the Senate and the House of Rep, was just a jamboree. You can see the hush with which Deputy Speaker Carlo, our brother, rushed through the reading of the bill. Page 1 agreed that page 2, he was just rushing it off and clouting down the people who wanted to bring up any type of opposition to it. So the thing was hushed up. The bill was signed.
That means no plans of credible election in this country?
Yes, you are helping me to say it. There is no intendment at fair play. Because one, if we actually wanted to do the justice of the matter, it is not only in just saying electronic transmission. Any result that does not end the validity of that transmission becomes invalid. Immediately you step up this matter, fraud will end. Immediately an INEC officer is found to have colluded and is sacked. He runs a fear system into the institution that this thing is no longer business as usual. We allow corruption unaided. There's everything, everybody does anything and gets away with it. You can see election that has gone to the state collation center. It has been well all through the local government, through the wards and all that, climbed to the last point of transmission. What will come out from that state office? Does that mean
we are back to status quo, that each year an election will hold in Nigeria, our legislators will go back to amendments just to suit themselves?
Yes, they are here. They know that the plushest job you can do in this country is to be a House member, a legislator, or a senator. They are richer than some of the governors and all that. The budget they control, some of them that have garnered some parliamentary commissions, or what do they call it? Commissions, oversight and all this stuff. They make a whole lot of money. If you see what was happening in the public hearing the other day, you see the monies that we are touting as missing. You bleed for this country. So they want to return back to their seats. And how do they return back to their seats? They buy INEC officials because they have money, they have disposable income, large constituency project money in their various accounts. What does it take to buy 2 local governments? Sharing 10,000 per voter. It's not such money. So they're going back. And then if the comes to the worst, and then you kind of want to challenge them, you kind of think that result will be transmitted electronically or digitally, they'll bribe their way through the electoral officers. And these results will be changed manually and transmitted manually. And what can you do about it? You go to court. The same court that have said that Abuja is no longer, Abuja is now a state and should be given the status of a state.
All right, in case you're just joining us, sorry. This is Good Morning Anambra Show, talking about the 2026 electoral laws and off-season polls with our guest, Barrister Chris Arukwe, right here in the studios. At this point, we're going to get to the streets to feel the pulse of the masses. We'll be right back. When we return, more on Good Morning Anambra.
In Abuja, in the last election, I would tell you for sure that there is no confidence. And I can tell you that the independent National Electoral Commissions are not ready. They are not ready for the election. I can tell you that this time the youths have prepared to come out to cast their votes, hoping that their votes will count. But what happened is a just indication that there's no hope coming.
I think it's a parochial state of confidence. It makes the youth lose their confidence in voting. It makes the youth lose their confidence in governance. It makes the youth even lose their confidence in Nigeria as a country. Because the new change from digital form of election to manual form of election is just a parameter of the government to engage into what they call electoral malpractice and into what will bring political quagmire to the nation. Because you cannot just be running from digital aspect of electoral processes to manual aspect of electoral processes, drastically change and being enforced into a law.
It shows that it is practically impossible and categorically unachievable, to give the youth the confidence that they can take over the governance and increase democracy and representative government in Nigeria.
I don't think the youth in question have lost their confidence in governance through that, because last election, people will bring out their confidence in voting, but at the end of the day, the result will turn the confidence of the people down, which means the youth are having the parochial state of confidence in the election processes.
Yeah, we've heard it from our street parliamentarians out there. The laws that we were talking about, is it not meant to strengthen electoral integrity, transparency, and accountability ahead of the 2027 elections? But I can say that no Nigerian actually feels safe with that election, except those that are vying for political offices. Those are the ones that they feel that this Electoral Act was actually amended to actually suit them.
All right, from the clips we just watched, Arukwe, you feel, I don't know what you feel, what I felt here, yeah. Watching these young ones speak about the electoral practices and the amendment that happened recently. I saw fears, I saw discontentment in their voice, in their tone. What does this portend for the coming election? Do you think there will be a participation the way it should? I don't know. What does this portend for the coming election in Nigeria?
What you can see is that the people out there, the youth who have spoken, kind of speaks for the generality of our people. Their tone and what they are saying runs in consonance with us, and that what they are saying are valid, and they paint the bigger picture. Because I just told you, it's just the off-season election is just a road to the general election in 2027. There's nothing that will change, because nothing changed. Because if you want change, you must order change. The principle is that the ugly aspect of the 2023 elections, the ones that will head the daunting details at the tribunals, would also reenact itself. Judges are going to be appointed, judges who are going to do the bidding of our brothers, and that they are going to write the type of judgment they wrote against our people or against our will. So we are not expecting any miracles because there are no signs. In fact, it's going to get worse, where the system of even appointing the Inspector General of Police does not reflect sectoral displacement, does not reflect the wishes of the people, does not reflect the federal character. All the machinery of governance is sectored around ethnic chauvinism. You now believe that, like I told you, I made a point here, which is my best point moving away from here, that the elections in Nigeria in the past 15 years is producing a minority report, a minority representation by a chosen elite in such a way that 25% represents the segment of 25 of 100. So you now see that the people who are governing Nigeria are governing Nigeria with a will of 25%. Is that not an assumption, the subsummation of the will of the minority over the will of the majority? And then that is authoritarianism. And then when you have that system of governance, that is the will, the power, the giant's footsteps of these 25% people who readily down our throat, who make us believe that might is stronger than will, and all that. These are the kind of people, a system we are not hosting on ourselves.
Do you really think they factor in the masses in whatever they are doing? Because you remember in 2023 election, what happened? You know, the youths actually came out and they were hopeful that their will be done during the election. And at the end, we interacted with some of these young ones, and most of them were emphatic about their position that they are no longer coming out to vote. And during the Anambra state election, we were here in the studio, you were here with us, and one man, a man that came in for the analysis, I think he walked from his home to this place, and from his report that a lot of young people were playing football outside. Now, 2027 election is coming, and something happened in Abuja with the off-season election, and all these things the younger ones are saying. Don't you think this is going to affect our electoral processes in a very huge way?
You have said it all. What am I going to add? The story is foretold. It's not a prophecy. If you venture to say what's going to happen today, because when the clouds come, you expect the rains. There's nothing we're expecting. We're not expecting any miracle. The land has been made desolate. There are no inspiration. Nothing is reassuring. You spoke about the words of the Senate president that their job is to make sure that the masses' will is, those are just gimmicks. Those are just things, theoretics, where people say to touch your back as a child, just make you to be happy a little while. So they don't mean any good for the masses, because 25% of voter turnout cannot equate 100%. So they like the fact that you're not coming out. They like the fact that these elections, the result can be written in their favor. They like the syndrome that with 10,000 naira, they can purchase my vote. They can buy my vote. With 5,000 naira, if the market is large and open, they reduce it to 5,000. Because 5,000 can still cook a pot of soup for the people who are challenged dramatically in the turn of events in the country. These people need this money desperately. Some people need this money for medicals. Some need it to quench hunger for a day or two. So these monies are necessities, and they drop and weaponize this thing that people will come out to take money rather than to vote.
No,
they are ready to even give you the voter's card, provided you just give them the 10,000.
Now that you've talked about
it has come there because they are weaponized poverty. They made poverty to be palpable, that made poverty to ionize our pain. They have made us to, like this Stockholm syndrome, for us to live with our poverty and pain as if it is part of our own civilization.
Okay, now that you've talked about giving money in order to get your vote or your voter's card, in the INEC reviewed Electoral Act, political parties are meant to submit their digital membership registers 21 days before the election, and also there's fine for unlawful possession of voter's card, and that fine is 5 million naira. Now, for somebody that will now collect your voter's card in order to go probably vote or use it for the electoral manipulation and fraud, the fine, according to INEC reviewed Electoral Act, is 5 million naira. How do we marry these things based on the fact that vote buying is now the new order on election day in Nigeria?
If you watch events in Nigeria, you can see that it's only one man in Akwa Ibom who was the returning officer who returned Babio, the Senate president, who had gone through the judicial process, and he was convicted and maybe still serving or not serving. The point is that out of a million plus irregularities and offenders, you single out one man in a nation of 243 million. It doesn't touch the ocean. It's just a dilute, insignificant dilute. It is. So we don't have the will. You don't set the rules in breaches. You don't set the rules that you cannot implement. They say when we're learning this, our law thing, the quality of a good law is to make laws that are capable of being obeyed. Easily understood. The law is easily understood, easily obeyed, without strictures or burdensome compliance. But they haven't set the rules in such a manner that they want compliance. They want the rules to be in breaches, because that is not their primary objective. Their primary objective is to just pretend that people are voting. They come and take your pictures where people are queuing. There's large voter turnout in Ward A, large voter turnout in Ward B. At the end of the thing, the INEC official has been compromised. The commissioner at the state level has been compromised. His dollars have been given in quoted banks and all that. His vehicles are ready for delivery. And at the headquarters, budget is open and unsupervised for him. 1.34 trillion. Now we can't, an institution is doing a budget of 1.2 trillion. What is the federal government of our republic dealing with? How many trillions? It's absurd. It's absurd. And people are dying in their numbers. And we're pretending that this type of election would landmark democracy, due process. And if we are not doing the right thing, if 25% of voter turnout begins to be a regular feature, it means that poverty, all sorts of grades of institutional failure will still run through the system. And poverty, lack of healthcare system, lack of good roads, priority budget or infrastructures are not implemented. Governors do what they like, choose what they choose, instead of what the people will want. So it's ongoing. It's a riddle, and it's not just election that we're talking about. Okay. We're talking about the people. How does this electoral processes end up with us? It ends up that democracy is being killed by the minute. That is the essence of why we're here. It's not about technicalities of elections and all that. It's actually that these things we're doing is helping to kill democracy. All because 25% of voter turnout, 23% in some places, and 24.4% in some states.
All right, quickly,
does
before
not
we wrap
equate.
Up, our time is fast spent, but there is a question I wanted to use to wrap up this show. Now, looking ahead to future elections, do you actually believe the 2026 electoral law will strengthen Nigeria's democratic institutions and improve public trust in election, because that public trust has been a very great issue over time.
Yes, you asked it. I think you just want to pet me at the back. That question is answered by you and by the audience that you interviewed and all that. There's no romance here. They are not joking with us. They've set the exam and they marked the result before you enter the exam hall. They are just going to do their own channel biddings. It's not going, it's ugly already. And if election in the federal capital of Nigeria can only bring out 25% of our registered voter, then what do we kind of think will happen in 2026 that is just at the back? 2027, that is at the back of our hand here.
All right.
So it's ugly. The word is ugly. It's just going to end the way 2023 ended, if not worse.
We can actually go on and on, but time is no longer our friend here. Would like to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights on this important issue. The integrity of elections remains the cornerstone of democracy, and understanding our electoral laws is key to ensuring transparency and accountability in electoral processes in this country. Thank you, Chris Arukwe, for your time. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Well, that's the much we have for you this morning on the discussion segment on Good Morning Anambra. My name is Ajuluchukwu Okabwe.
And my name is Nonya Nwokoye. It's a bye from us.